Welcome. I didn't want to do this today. I just wanted to play Starship Troopers. It's a fun game. I wanted to work on a few other things and projects. No, I wanted to do that Warcraft lore thing I do. That works. I like that. But I have to talk about this because Games Workshop, for some reason, and well, we all know the reason, has decided to increase its prices once again. Of course, not right now. It's gonna increase from the 6th of March, with a 6% increase in all plastic kits. Going from, for example, as they mentioned on the Warhammer community page, a Battle Sister squad goes up 1.5 pounds from 36 pounds to 37.5 or 50, whatever. And this will affect the following: plastic miniatures, Forge World and Citadel resin miniatures, standard and Artificer Citadel brushes, spray paint. What is not going to affect is starter sets, surprising, paint sets, paint pots, Citadel tools, codex, rulebooks and battle tomes, and synthetic STC brushes. What synthetic STC brushes? Like those from StarCraft? No. Anyway. Yeah, we get another price increase, and it's quite funny. And I say it's funny because this always happens, doesn't it? It's always an increase when it comes to Games Workshop. It's never the prices going down or getting more bang for your buck or getting more models. What you get instead is another price increase. And while during the pandemic there was some justification for that, in all honesty, there was back then when shipping was more expensive, stuff was more expensive, and so on. But now, what's the excuse? The war in Ukraine? Possibly. The petrodollar exchange thing dropping? Sure, that could also work. But then why are other companies able to maintain their prices? Smaller companies, of course, that Games Workshop dwarfs in size. Let's remember, Games Workshop is a gigantic company. But how do they manage to do that? It's the interesting question at this. Because in all honesty, it's quite baffling how only Games Workshop seems to be the one that increases the prices for stuff. Now, granted, of course, the miniatures are of high quality, and there are a few companies that can really match it. But, think about it like this. You can barely get anything in a regular standard box. The Necron Warriors box even comes with a few pieces missing, so you have to buy more boxes to get a full squad of it. You see, things are not really looking that nice. And you know what, maybe I would have just overlooked this. Be like, whatever, Games Workshop's increasing prices again, because they always do that. Things just get more expensive with this. Warhammer is not for everyone, as they wanted to say, but for anyone that can afford it at this point. Of course, that makes sense. But what really made me do this is the fact that I saw this on Twitter. Please don't follow me on Twitter. I have a bunch of schizoid rants about stuff on Twitter. And I saw that they were hiding comments. Now this a little bit goes against what I believe in and the things I think. Because I think everybody should be left to freely talk about their views, be them bad, good, nonsensic, schizoid, or whatever. But no, the Warhammer community page decided to hide certain replies, and I will read them for you. Hey, another reason not to buy those terrible brushes. Thanks. Was one of them that got hidden. A meme about the Games Workshop believing that their customers just can't hold on to their money, just falling out of their pockets. A weird GIF with a dancing caricature of a Jew. Okay, that's just weird. Somebody asked, didn't you have record profits last year? Your rising prices to have more than record prices next year too, right? That isn't greedy or exploitative at all. We're really trying our best, guys, but everything in the world is getting more expensive. And there's a graph showing how the revenue that Games Workshop makes just went up by the year. Somebody exactly saying what I said earlier. Warhammer is for everyone that can afford it. This is a hobby of privilege, now more than ever. Shinzo Abe image with a gun. I'm not sure why that's that. Sounds like Kevin Roundtree should take a pay cut. 3D printer go brr. I like that one. Brr. You know what's gonna go brr soon? Right? Ask somebody. You did a price hike not too long ago, and I gave the benefit of the doubt because my mid-pandemic shipping cost increases now. You are now taking in more revenue than ever before. Shipping prices have almost definitely dipped since the pandemic is mostly over. This is greed. Pouring resin into my 3D printer, and it's a picture of Walter White just doing some chemical stuff. A box of 10 Cadians is now £30. A box of Wargame Atlantic's Deathfield's troops, regardless of army/faction, is 25 for 24 models. That's a good price. That's a good deal. Get that one. I would be interested in that one. I'll look into it. Made from the same plastic, designed by the same people, with just as much variety, by a company dwarfed in size by Games Workshop. But tell me it's not greed. Clown emoji. Games Workshop, don't use a 3D printer. Games Workshop, we are raising prices. Wonders why people buy a 3D printer. Daily reminder, Games Workshop has a better margins than Google, and this is pure profiteering. In truth, that is true. Because I wonder how Google and YouTube really works, because they seem to be on... They don't seem to make that much of a profit, surprisingly. Which is really surprising for Google and YouTube, but it's about Games Workshop now. Let's look at other comments. Be sure that we will pay close attention that you move the prices down once the crisis ends. Otherwise, don't complain if people resort more and more to 3D printing. And this technology is going up in terms of quality for cost. Fortunately, there is the second-hand market and 3D printers. And while we see what you do for the margins of your shareholders, we don't forget the stories you can see here and there about your toxic management in the stores. This is why the recast market exists. Laughing emoji. Okay, but why though? You're rolling in money. A reminder that Anycube has a 3D printer sale going on right now. That's an interesting one. Y'all might want to remember moments like this when you get replaced by 3D printer, since a mid-tier 4K or 8K resin printer is significantly cheaper than a 2000 point army, even before this upcoming price hike. And that is true. That is true. Armies have gotten a lot more expensive. Like, I saw a video about this where it talks like it's kind of hard to make a good army at like $5,000 euros, pounds, whatever you want to use. And that makes sense. It is hard to do that. And to have specific units, not duplicates. Because technically with duplicates you can make an army faster. But say you want some variety in your army, some variety that works. It's kind of hard to do that now with 500 of something. And that is true, and it's really a little bit upsetting. You can't really promote this as being for everyone with price hikes almost every year. Because then it just proves it's not for everyone, it's just for the people that have the biggest pockets. And at some point, people will be priced out of the game, because that's what's gonna happen. At some points, people won't be able to afford all the miniatures and everything, because it's gonna be too expensive. And that will just leave the people with bigger wallets. And this will continue on and on until only the whales remain. People that can afford a Warlord Titan a year. You know, the big miniature that's as big as a kid, like a 5-year-old. Yeah, the only people that can afford that once a year will be the only ones left to do this. And I guess that's what they want. The more money, the better, right? But it's strange, because you'll always see claims and the cries about diversity and inclusion and so on, and equity for people, and they always talk about female space marines or putting trans sisters of battle or trans space marines in there, but you never see them talk about the price hikes. You never really see them cry about it, because I think this is the most detrimental thing for Games Workshop's, shall we say, diversity purposes. Because you can plaster as many black or people, as many women, as many whatever you want on the cover of something. Problem is, if those people you're trying to cater to don't have the money to get it, they're not gonna get into it. Because honestly, it's hard to get into something that costs a lot of money to participate in. Yeah, shocker, I know. But you can't hope to reach whatever diversity and inclusion you want of this. You can't screech about it and then not talk about the price hikes that are keeping people and pricing out people out of the hobby. It just doesn't work. Now, of course, this is more of a problem with certain elements of the community. I hate the word community, but we can't really deny the truth. That's the truth. The hobby is getting more expensive and people would be are getting priced out of it. Of course, 3D printing and secondhand marketing exists, so there's always something to look into. But it's quite sad that we're getting to this point where you no longer can afford to be in a certain hobby because of its cost. Think it like this. If I am a football fan, what are the costs for me? Maybe television, electricity, internet. These are pretty normal costs, I would say, to get into the hobby that is football. And that's about it. Sure, you can go the extra mile if you support a team, if you love a team. You can go to their matches, which, yes, indeed, becomes a little bit more expensive. You can get merchandise for it. But you're never priced out of a hobby like that. You see where I'm going with this? You're never priced out of watching football. Because the cost for you is just little. It doesn't matter that much. Because you're already going to pay for the internet, for the electricity, for the television, for the cable. It doesn't matter. But Warhammer is a different hobby. Warhammer is a hobby that you need a lot of investment, both in time and money, to get into properly. I think this is what hurts it, and this is what hurts statements like they try to make with Warhammers for everyone. Their prices don't prove their values. Now, of course, we have to also understand the capitalist part, in which, okay, you can die with your values and you can die of starvation with your values, but nobody wants that. What people want is reasonable prices. And we can see reasonable prices from other companies. Very clearly, we can see reasonable prices with a lot of miniatures in them from other companies. But Games Workshop doesn't do that. You get less for more money, which isn't really that good of an idea. Of course, Fantasy Flight Games also has the same thing, where there are less models for more money, but that's a different topic in their case, because their games always seem more skirmish style, more small scale, compared to Games Workshop biggest franchise, Warhammer 40k. That's just it. That's the nature of it. Of course, be revolted or accept it or whatever with this price increase. This has just been my opinion. I hope you enjoyed it, and I'll see you in the next one.